gamers, and welcome to another pure PlayStation review. This time it's Freedom Finger on PS4. Let's jump right in. With the opening riff of Red Fang's prehistoric dog, a fleet of enemy ships erupt from the right of the screen and I open fire. Combat ebbs and flows to the timing of the Stoner Rock anthem as I blast and batter my way through wave after wave of enemies. It's a heady mix of sights and sounds converging into something utterly exhilarating. Your enjoyment of Freedom Finger will hinge upon a few factors, namely your taste in music and humour, and your penchant for punishment, and perhaps even your fondness for certain illicit substances. Drugs. Wide Right Interactive's debut is a feast for the senses. Its hit-or-miss humour, brutal difficulty and sporadic structure result in a thrilling, frustrating acid trip of a game, but one worth experiencing nonetheless. You play as the rookie pilot named Gamma Ray, and you're sent on an intergalactic space mission by Major Cigar, voiced by the ever-popular Nola North. You hop aboard the Middle Finger spaceship and out into the cosmos to kick some terrorist arse. Nola North steals the show with his bravado-filled obscenity-strewn performance, which fuels a suitably absurd, Adult Swim-worthy story about communism and Sriracha. While at times Freedom Finger is hilarious, the writing often becomes sidetracked by striving to one-up itself. It ends up relying on lazy stereotypes and brash silliness rather than the smart satire or innate oddness that makes many of its levels so captivating. You'll be spending the majority of your time in Freedom Finger gunning your way through its fever dream-like levels, all of which feel handcrafted by some half-mad, drugged-up god, or as we call him, Jim Dershberger, the game's designer. As you cross the multiverse through the game's increasingly frenzied campaign, which branches off in different directions based on a number of your choices, you'll find yourself dogfighting through a series of increasingly strange stages. From asteroid belts and armadas to a child's toy box, retro arcade games, and even a nightmare flesh world, I found myself consistently surprised, if not a little disorientated, by the ever-shifting realities Freedom Finger threw at me. Each world, except for one, is rendered in the same cohesive, illustrative art style, each of them boasting their own unique visual identity with distinct and inventive enemy designs, colour palettes and aesthetics. All of this creativity can feel a little disparate, however, leading to a campaign that ultimately feels disjointed and incomplete, yet massively spectacular. Providing the other half of Freedom Finger's intoxicating audio-visual equation is the game's fantastic licensed soundtrack. By far this is the game's most impressive feature, with each and every track on this brilliantly curated selection of songs fitting seamlessly into the gameplay, lending the frantic on-screen action a sense of rhythm. This variety of music kept me consistently engaged, reframing familiar songs I already knew and exposing me to new artists alike, while doing an excellent job of balancing sonic intensity and serenity from one level to the next. For me though, Freedom Finger works best as an interactive playlist. The responsive gunplay of its bullet hell levels thrilled me at first, but I soon found it began to feel tertiary or even distracting from the sensory stimulation my eyes and ears were enjoying. That's not to say the act of playing Freedom Finger can't be enjoyable, it's a bloody fun game, no doubt, but when the music, visuals and gameplay all align, the sense of flow is immensely empowering. On the other hand, it's often frustrating to achieve this state of zen. Eventually, I did find a compromise by reducing the difficulty and thus my need to pay full attention to what was going on. This compromise wasn't for the lack of trying. On the game's normal difficulty, the first few stages do provide a well-balanced challenge, testing your reflexes and mad gamer skills. However, the difficulty does begin to spike and sink sporadically. Some levels had me dying over and over and over and over and over and over again within seconds, offering no power-ups or respite from the unforgiving onslaught. Others seemed oddly subdued, throwing the same half-dozen enemies and obstacles at me without deviation. The inconsistency means gameplay rarely hits that sweet spot, and completing the game on anything above the ultra-forgiving diaper difficulty, that's nappy for us in the UK, seems impossible or so pedestrian it settles into dull repetition. Freedom Finger is a hypnotic hallucination of a game. Despite deterring me with its difficulty, its brilliant art and expertly curated soundtrack keeps me coming back. The difficulty imbalance can be annoying, and style cannot win over substance, but at the end of the day, it's a compelling music-fueled shoot-'em-up. To summarise, Freedom Thing is a wild ride through the psychedelic multiverse that, while boasting consistently creative visual design and a fantastic licensed soundtrack, is all too often hindered by imbalanced difficulty and inconsistent ideas. Our score, 7.5 out of 10. And that brings us to the end of this review. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit like and subscribe button down below? It helps us bring you reviews and other content.